This next unit we're going to go through is all about logic. So we're going to start by just going over some definitions, and then we're going to talk about what we can do with these things. So really the context that we're going to talk about logic is in the term of some kind of statements. And if you think about this, you're using this in your day-to-day life. If you make a statement, you're making some assumption or making some claim. So overall, our formal definition for a statement is it's going to be a sentence that can be judged true or false. So if I make the statement, the sky is blue, well, that could be true or it could be false depending on the time of day, because it might be a sunset out or something like that. So you make these statements in your day-to-day lives. What we're going to build up to is when you start combining statements and there's potential truth values, so maybe one statement is true but the other happens to be false. What happens if I then combine those in an argument? Am I still making something that is sound and makes sense? So that's going to be our ultimate goal that we get to. So the first operation we're going to talk about with a statement is you can talk about the negation. So if you think about the word itself, it's a negative. This is ultimately going to change a statement to the opposite meaning. Or you can think of that as the opposite truth value. You don't want to change the core of the problem, but it should have the opposite meaning. So to give you an example, if I make the statement, Disney World is in New Jersey. Okay. This we definitely know is a false statement. So when I think of the negation, I don't want to change the subject matter. I should not be changing Disney World. I should not be changing New Jersey. But I need to turn this to something that is true. So instead of saying it is in New Jersey, the negation would be it is not in New Jersey. So our correct negation would be the sentence and statement, Disney World is not in New Jersey. So we've taken that statement that was false, and now this is true. Okay. So the problem with negations, in most sentences, it's not going to be bad. It's going to be adding the phrase not in there, or if it had not, the negation of this statement would be it is in New Jersey. The problem comes in when we start having something called quantifiers. And if you think about the word quantifier, it deals with quantity. So when quantifiers, like the phrases all, none, some, if those are involved in your statement, the negation is a little bit trickier. So the number one thing you want to keep in mind is the negation of a false statement should be true. And also, if you start with a true statement, its negation should be false. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to work with a statement with a quantifier and see, can I figure out the negation? So the statement we're going to work with is all cats are orange. And so our quantifier in this case is the phrase all. Okay. We know this is definitely a false statement. There are cats that are definitely not orange. So starting out, this is false. Which means its negation should be true. the easiest or kind of the most natural way to negate this would likely be this one. The word all seems like naturally I should switch it to none or no. But if you think about this, if I switch the phrase all to none, no cats are orange, I don't end up with something that's true, because I can definitely find an orange cat. So this doesn't result in a true statement. So really, when I have this extreme of all or none, the negation is going to involve some. You're taking the most extreme amount and making it just a handful of them. But the thing you have to remember is you also need to change that statement. So you're changing the quantifier, but I also need to change them from having the characteristic to not. Okay? So really, the correct negation is the phrase all switches to some. Cats does not, nothing happens to it. And then all are switches to are not. So I got to make sure I'm changing that verb meaning as well. So are switches to are not. So some cats are not orange is the correct negation. Okay. So in general, if we have a quantifier, I'm going to give you what the negation would be. So if you have the statement all something are something, its negation, all needs to switch to some, and then are needs to switch to are not. Okay. If you have none are, its correct negation has to change the quantifier, so it changes to some as well. And none are, I mean, that's kind of the same as saying are not, would change then to are, or in this case it technically stays the same. Okay. So if you think about this phrase back here, no cats are orange, the negation would be, well, some cats are orange, and that is a true statement. Okay. So when we talk about logic and dealing with statements and all of these things, a lot of times what happens is we're going to assign a letter like P, Q, R, S, T. And then we're going to have these operators that act on them. So the negation is symbolized by a tilde, which is really just a squiggle. It's the thing that's above one of the apostrophe looking or right next to the one on your keyboard. The way you're going to read this is it really just means not. Okay. So what I would write is something like, if I have the statement P, I would write not P to say take the negation of it. So ultimately you're going to change it to the opposite meaning. Okay. So let's try an example. If P represents the statement Ariel is your professor, then not P is going to represent the statement where again I do not change the subject matter, so it is still Ariel, but is needs to switch over to is not. So this would be the negation of that statement. Okay. Then in addition to having these quantifiers, there's another way we can talk about that same phrase. So if you think about the statement, all A's are B's, and I'm going to use the cat example, all cats are orange. An equivalent way to say that is there are no cats that are not orange. Okay? So none exist that don't have that criteria. So same way to say both of these. If you want to say some cats are orange, well, another way you could rephrase that is there exists at least one cat that is orange. Okay. If you say no cats are orange, another way to say that is all cats are not orange. And then if some cats are not orange, not all cats are orange. So that means there's some that are not. So these are all similar phrases that mean exactly the same thing. So just to give you a quick example of how you can utilize this, if P is a statement, some movies are dumb, if I want to write an equivalent expression, so our phrase is back up here, some movies are dumb. An equivalent expression is, there exists at least one movie that is dumb. So same exact meaning for these. Okay. If I want to find the negation of this statement, because again, that is not P, I'm going to work with this one because that's a little bit easier. So some are would then some switches to one of the extreme quantifiers. So in this case, because some are, I want to say none are to have the opposite meaning. So the negation of P is going to be the statement, no movies are dumb. Okay. So this is just our start. We're going to talk about other operations as well, and then we're going to lead into a concept called truth tables.